I believe the central challenge of being an empath, or an empathic person, or if you prefer, an empathetic person, is to discern, ultimately, how do you feel? I mean, it seems like something that we should be able to access readily. But sometimes that can be one of the most challenging things in the world, is to figure out, how do I feel? And I was reflecting on this morning in terms of, there's 4 different strategies that people use to get energy from each other according to Celestine Prophecy. And I believe that these are very useful to become familiarized with and to examine how they've played out in your life and your relationship to family members and so forth. If you were raised in a family in which the parents were ultimately centered, and, or parent was centered, or guardian, doesn't really matter. If the people you were around got energy from within, from their connection with their higher source, their true self, then you probably didn't have to discern what was going on with other people, because it was clear. They were coming from a clear place, and they were, teaching you healthy ways of being and so forth. But I've never met anyone like that. Maybe it's 1 in 100, maybe it's more frequent, maybe it's 1 in 20, I don't know. And that I just haven't met people that have had healthy experiences like that because of my own karma. Or I haven't been close with people who've had, maybe I've met them, but haven't been close with people who've had healthy experiences growing up and so forth, because I had to get in touch with my own stuff, which was more subtle, intellectual, intelligent people that were not healthy are harder to figure out and so forth. But these ways of getting energy, intimidating, interrogating, being aloof, or being a poor me, are the ones from James Redfield in Celestine Prophecy teachings. So, looking at these from the standpoint of an empath, an empathic person, perhaps you became more empathic, more sensitive to what others were feeling, because you were trying to figure out what was going on in your environment, because it wasn't clear, it wasn't healthy, and you wanted to protect yourself. So, if you're around an intimidator, a person who gets energy by intimidating other people, then you could have a walking on eggshells kind of feeling of like, what's going to piss them off? What's going to make them abusive, verbally, physically, sexually abusive? What's going to be the thing that turns them into a monster? How are they feeling at each moment? And what can I do to make sure they don't freak out? Because I don't want that, because it feels uncomfortable. So that can really get you tuned into an intimidator. An interrogator is similar of, I don't want somebody all up in my face, I don't want somebody all up in my energy, getting energy from interrogating me about every little thing that I did or thought or whatever. So I want to know what's going to avoid them being triggered, that makes them go into that insecure place where they need that kind of energy. And so tuning into their energy and how to walk around that, how to avoid that, can also get you to become more empathic in that sense of tuning into what other people are experiencing. Cat run by. The poor me is a person who gets energy by acting as if everything's terrible, and they play upon your sympathy. They play upon your empathy. And so if you get sucked into that energy where this person doesn't want to figure out how to make their life work because they will no longer be able to get energy in that way, then if you're sucked in, then your empathic energy will be drawn to saying, well, what will make this person feel better? Because if they feel better, they'll have more to give. And if they have more to give, then I'll be able to have my needs met as a child, an adolescent, whatever stage you're at developmentally, an adult. And so you can really spend a lot of time with a poor me tuning into how are they going to stop suffering, what might help them, you know, what is the root of their feelings, and that can get you away from your own feelings. And a person who is aloof, that is a strategy for getting energy. And all these strategies, you know, according to James Redfield, are motivated by a lack of connection with your source, with your, you know, spirit, your higher self, the divine energy that we all have access to. If we're not connected to that, we have to get it from other people. So that's true for all four of these strategies. But the aloof, their whole thing is about not sharing and not showing what they're feeling and what they're experiencing, because then that can create, through our natural curiosity and desire to be connected with other people, then that can get other people to pay attention to you. They think you're maybe mysterious or interesting because you don't share, and they ask questions, and you know, they give you energy because you're not sharing, and so forth. So in terms of that turning you into an empath as a child, if you're around somebody who's aloof, then you might want to know who that mom or dad or sibling is. What kind of a person are they? So you really try to figure out and tune in. And so all these different things can get you away from yourself. I'm checking my notes because I made a lot of notes on this topic. Okay. A lot of times I believe that if you are an empath, then you have to spend time alone. And there's different ways of spending time alone. If you spend all your time reading, watching TV, watching films, browsing the internet, that's not useful in terms of connecting with yourself and your feelings. You have to just be present with your feelings. It could be before you go to sleep, it could be when you wake up, it could be at any point in the day, but just thinking about how you feel, thinking about how you think, tuning into what you experience takes some time. It takes some conscious effort. And I think that, you know, if people live alone, then they have to, if they live with someone else, I should say, they have to make a conscious effort to create some alone space in their life to tune in to how do you feel. Because if you're an empath, you might be just so aware and so used to trying to figure out how people feel, then you're not really in touch with your own feelings and what's going on for you. And also, as an empath, it can be an escape to get away from your own discomfort by tuning in to other people. I know that I used to call people all the time when I had a lot of people in my life. I don't anymore have a lot of people in my life, but when I did, it was always a way that I could, if I was uncomfortable in some way, just tuning into the world, what was going on with them, asking questions, figuring things out, exploring things with them. That was a way for me to say, okay, here's this discomfort, here's this pain and anxiety and just whatever disillusionment that I'm experiencing. So if I put that awareness here, that's here where I'm uncomfortable, into another person, then I'm not paying attention to how I'm feeling anymore. And this is like a big thing in terms of my self-realization of how have I coped with uncomfortable feelings. It's taking my empathic abilities, putting them into the use of not just understanding another for the purpose of connecting and developing an authentic connection, but to get away from myself and how I feel. So being an empathic person and being sensitive on that energetic level can be very uncomfortable, but it can also be a source of enhanced bliss, of really feeling good. If you are clear and you are at peace with yourself and you've dealt with your unfinished business and you feel in alignment and in integrity, then just the simplest things can be very joyful, and produce a lot of peace in your life. So being empathic has its challenges, but it has great rewards too. You just have to make sure that you're taking the time to tune in to yourself and your feelings, to understand what is yours as opposed to what is other people's stuff, because they can get kind of blended together and that can feel confusing.